Welcome to Facebook Advertising for Startups. I'm Dennis Yu of Blitz Local. For the next half hour, I'm going to share our top secrets on how startups can get the most traffic and success on Facebook. Normally, we charge $10,000 for a review, but you paid a few dollars, and we might as well share some of our best secrets. If you haven't done Facebook advertising before, don't worry about it. If you don't know how to program, that's fine. We're going to walk through a cycle that we call the social traffic cycle, that if you follow this process, it ought to give you the most amount of traffic. Let me start off with some theory. Facebook is different than other kinds of advertising or marketing because it's not blasting people with messages in the same way advertising is just trying to interrupt people and send notices to folks who really don't want to be bothered. Instead, Facebook's about getting folks who already love you, your existing fans, to market on your behalf in the same way somebody might pay $80 for a polo shirt and they're advertising for polo, or they talk about how they love their MacBook Pro or they love the environment because they drive their Toyota Prius. And the trick is to leverage that so that you can build a community that markets on your behalf, and then you can use advertising on Facebook with friend of fan ads, which we'll show you in just a second, so that you can build a base of people who talk about you. You can game the feed so that you can show up in the news feed here, right? So this is me. This is my news feed. And what's showing up here in my top news are things that Facebook thinks is most interesting. So Dan Martell, he does Facebook stuff. Virgin Mobile, they're a client. Here's a guy who owns a gym, Dave McClure. Out of all the things that they could show me of my 2,000, 3,000, however many friends, Facebook's deciding. And you want to get your startup in this feed. And to do that, you have to increase your Edgerank. You have to increase your number of fans, right? To rank on Facebook, likes are the new links. So how do you do that with advertising to game the system to increase your post quality score, your Edgerank, your feedback rate, these other measures that tell Facebook that your brand, your startup is valuable? It should be shown to other people so that your friends, your fans, your friends of fans are seeing this. And if you don't have a lot of money, that's okay. If you don't program, that's okay. If you're not a big brand, that's fine. The tactics that we normally use for big brands are not going to work for a startup. You see, a big brand, let's say you're a Quiznos or a California Pizza Kitchen or a Rosetta Stone, people already know who you are. So if I come in and I type in Rosetta Stone, then, it's going to show up right here. And there are people who are going to be searching for Rosetta Stone in Google, for example. I'll come here in Google and I'll type in, Rosetta Stone, and I'll see, bam, here's all these results. People are typing learn Spanish, learn French, all this. It's easy when you're an existing brand to get a ton of traffic because people already know who you are. You're leveraging that existing power. But what if you're not? So I'll give you a few examples. We'll go through, I think, 7 or 8 examples here. So one of my friends, a 13-year-old, actually the son of a friend of mine, his father died, and you can see here he was a highly decorated veteran. He was a police officer. It was a very tragic thing. He was injured in the line of duty and some bad things happened. And this 13-year-old gained 16,000 fans in 96 hours. He didn't know how to program. There was no cheating. He actually did it himself with a little bit of consulting advice. And he did it primarily through this social cycle we're going to talk about, which is running ads, seeding content in such a way that you're going to get people to react to it. In some cases, people would say it's manipulative, but we'll show you how this works to try to increase your feedback rate, right? You can see here, for example, here's a video, here's our, here's so-and-so's favorite song, a 0.19% feedback rate. Here, a 1.39% feedback rate, which tells Facebook, wow, this is interesting content. I think we should share this. So the key is to start off this cycle. We're going to go through this cycle 3 times, is you have to start with some seed content. What is it that's going to cause people to come to the site initially? Is there something you have that's provocative? So in this case here, if I type in Officer Ludwig, I'll see that there's a site here. It's a WordPress site. It happens to have the Facebook like box, so you can see how many fans there are. I believe now there's 132,000 fans. And here's the story, a picture of this gentleman, and then this whole story of what happened, which then drove a ton of responses. Now, when you have this kind of content, it can be on a WordPress blog, a Blogger blog. It could be actually a note that's on Facebook. You then drive ads to it. And the reason why you need this content initially is that people have to be able to react to it. So when you have a plug that says, hey, check out this article here, and you run ads either off Facebook or to a note that sits on Facebook, you're going to get people to talk about this. They're going to say, oh my God, that was so bad. And so your objective here is to get as many likes as you can. So let's look at how we actually might make an ad. I'll go into here, create ads. So you go facebook.com/ads/manage, and we're using the self-serve ads. We're not using the direct ads, which is $10 CPMs through the direct sales team. It's way more expensive that way. So I'll go through some of the common mistakes people make and how you should go about targeting in the very beginning. So initially you don't have a lot of fans. Maybe you just made the page. So you can't do things like friend-to-fan ads, which I'll show you later once you have enough of a base. You have two choices for how you want to advertise. You can put in a URL, or you can say, I want to advertise something I have on Facebook, which then allows you to choose something from your list. And initially, I highly recommend that you choose this. So we could choose, for example, Equation Audio. They sell microphones and headphones. And the reason why you want to choose this from the drop-down instead of putting in a URL, instead of saying, even if it was the same URL where we said, HTTP, facebook.com/whoever you are, right? And if you don't have a URL picked, you go to facebook.com/username. So if I have this URL, or I choose it this way, it's technically going to the same place, but if I'm choosing it here from the drop-down, I get the benefit of an inline like. Your objective in this first go-round, in this social circle, is to get as many likes as you can. So when you choose this and you have inline likes, when people see the ad here, they can click like and they become a fan without having to go to the page. If I specify a URL, then I don't get that. This disappears. If I try to send to a tab and I say / whatever !app ID equals 12345, it's just not going to be the same, right? So this is Rosetta Stone, and I could choose any one of these tabs. And if you look here, if I right click on this, you can see the URL is different for each of these apps. It's /Rosetta Stone V equals app blah blah blah, and each of these are different. If I want to send traffic to any one of these tabs, there's two ways I can do it. I can either grab that URL and paste it into here, saying I want to advertise a web page, or I can go to the page and set the default URL. See if I go here to edit page, and settings, manage permissions, default landing tab. So anyone who's not a fan, they're going to come to this tab. It is much better to set your default landing tab to anything except for the wall and info. You don't want to do that. You want to have inline liking enabled. It'll probably give you 3 times, 4 times as many fans. With this particular client, their cost per fan was $21 before we started, and we got it down to under $1, largely because of this technique. Because if you don't have enough fans, you're not going to get people, you're not going to get that peer pressure effect. Because imagine you come to somebody's page and it says 28 people like this. Well, that's kind of lame. But if it says 132,000 people like this, and then the people that are shown here, Facebook's not just going to show 6 random people or whatever the like box you put there. They're going to show the people who are closest to who that user is, which reinforces that peer pressure. So if you got a large community, then the effect of friends of fans becomes great. So you've got to get that peer pressure going, and the more you can get the people who like you, which are going to be investors and friends and family and other people based on profession, the stronger it's going to be. So you want to set up a custom tab, which could be, for example, well, let's go to Officer Ludwig. You know, any one of, well, actually, this is not a good example, but you can see, well, what's a good one? Let's go to Weekly World News. Maybe they want to shop. Maybe we have a reveal tab where you've got to click like to be able to reveal this, right? Click like and you can see the news, or you can get a coupon, or you can do something like this. Or let's see, maybe we go to, let's go to Web Trends Labs, for example. Local deal. Here you've got to click get this deal. Okay, I want this deal. And then it'll say, all right, but now you've got to give me access to your profile information, your email address, the ability to post to your wall, these kinds of things, right? And then you can get, you know, whatever this is. This is a demo app. Or gifts, the same thing. You want to get this kind of participation. So if you set the default tab to one of these, and then here in your ad, you specify the page, it'll automatically send people who are not fans to this page. If they already are a fan, they're just going to come to the wall. You can't do anything about that. Now, when you do select your page from this drop-down, let's say, you know, Jillian Music, she's an internet marketer. You can then say, you want to say something that's a question or something that promotes the particular content. So in this case here, Officer Ludwig was a dedicated police officer, and we want to sell, well, eventually say we want to sell t-shirts and knickknacks and raise money for a nonprofit. But what might we do that's different than Google advertising? You know, what's so different about Facebook? Well, let's say here for Jillian Music, she's an internet marketer. She's the co-founder of SEO Moz. We might target people who are interested in SEO. Maybe they are interested in SEO Moz even. Or maybe they work at an SEO company. Maybe they work at Microsoft. Maybe they work at the Wall Street Journal because you want journalists to pick up your story and you want TechCrunch to pick your stuff up, right? What you're trying to do is build presence so that you look bigger than you really are, right? Because you're seeding, right? If we're talking about the cycle here, the first piece is you're seeding that content. Second is you're running some ads to this page, which should have some kind of interaction to it. And then when people come and respond, people come and say things, you have to talk to them. You can't ignore them. So if I come here to, oh, we're on Rosetta Stone, so fine, we'll go to the page. People are coming in, they're asking questions, right? So they're saying, hey, what about Bulgarian? And then someone comes in and says, well, actually, you know, we have this language, you know, we have that language, or here's a question, right? Do you have Rosetta Stone for Georgian? No, we don't, but at least you're there. And when you respond to someone else who effectively is visiting your house, then they feel like they're welcome. They're more likely to comment back. You can sometimes start a conversation where you have 40, 50 comments in line, which increases your edge rank, right? Edge rank and post quality score is dependent upon what % of your fans are interacting with you. So if we look back at Officer Ludwig, for example, and we go to Insights, it's only available in the old Insights, unfortunately, or unless you download the data. Like here you see this where it says export. Right here, I'll go to old Insights dashboard. Post quality score of 1.6. So that means, well, it's like a batting average out of 1,000. So I've got, you know, out of the people who are fans or of the last week, what % have commented or liked? In fact, if you hit the question mark, they'll tell you what the definition is, right? And we like to be over 1. Big brands tend to be less than 1. If you're a startup and you're just getting this traffic cycle going, you better be above 10. If you're not, then your cost per click is going to be 30, 40 cents. If you are doing a good job, you'll have clicks for like 5 or 10 cents. You'll have click-through rates of probably 0.5%. If your CTR is not at least 0.5% as a startup, you're not targeting well enough. Your ads aren't good enough. The image isn't compelling enough, right? So back here to the ads, we want to say something that's short. You have 135 characters, but typically you want to ask a question. So you could say something like, you know, in the voice of whoever the brand is. So if it's a personality, you have to take on that personality of that person. Such as, what did you think of such and such news that happened, right? It's the same kind of thing that you would say to someone at lunch who's a friend of yours. Instead of, oh, check out this latest press release where we launched a product, or so-and-so got interviewed, or we've got a booth at the next show, or help us get to, win this prize on TechCrunch. You don't want to do advertising. What you want to do is build friendships so that people will click like. And you only want to, once you get big enough, to advertise to existing fans and to friends of fans, so that this thing here, so-and-so likes this, shows up, which will give you probably double to triple the CTR. Okay, so you run through this first cycle where you have this content, you're promoting it, you're testing different ads. And by the way, when you're loading up these ads, you probably want to load up 5 to 10 variations. When we audit campaigns, I can't tell you how many times we look at an ad campaign and there's just 2 or 3 ads in there, and someone's let it run for a month and the ads burn out. Ads usually burn out in 48 to 72 hours. And if the ads don't have a person's face in them, if they don't have, I'll tell you the things that are good. Having a person's face, having a red border around it, having a call to action, having a question in there, having something provocative. What else can we have? Beautiful women, if you're running a dating site. Usually beautiful women will work for just about anything. It'll get a click, and provided that your target is relevant enough, it sort of doesn't even matter that much what the image does. I've seen people promote B2B software or things that are just have nothing to do with anything, and they'll just have 2 beautiful women standing side by side, and apparently Facebook lets that run. You could try whatever you want. Facebook's policies with images are a little more lax than, say, what Google would allow. Facebook talks about the Nipple Rule, for example. The Nipple Rule is, if there's a nipple, you can't show it. Is there not a nipple? Well, you may or may not be able to run it, but there's a nipple. And then there's controversy, if you remember, about 1.5 years ago. I remember when there was someone selling like breastfeeding or mammograms. It was legitimate. It wasn't something pornographic, and their ad got disapproved and, whatever. And like, yeah, but we're trying to, no, but the nipple, remember the Nipple Rule? If there's a nipple, you can't have it. And like, yeah, okay. All right. So if you're a startup and you don't have a lot of money, you have to target very carefully. So here, if I take all targeting off, I'm 18 plus US. I've got 132 million people that I can hit. If you are a Carl's Jr. or a Macy's or somebody like that, you could get away with doing that because you have enough money that you don't really care. But if you've only got maybe a few $100 a month, you can't do that. What you have to do is think about, who is it that's most interested in what you want. See, people who have a PPC background, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because they're going to think, oh yeah, I know how to do PPC. I've done it on Google and Bing and whatever, so I'm just going to do it on Facebook. I'm just going to put in my keywords. So maybe I've got a social network for people who like cars, like modifying cars. They work on their Subaru WRXs or whatever on the weekend. So they just come in here and they say, oh yeah, cars. I'm going to put in cars, because after all, they like cars, right? Trouble is that Cars could be The Cars, which is a rock band. It could be other kinds of things, and you can't, or let's say that you are selling esoteric parts for people who like Ferraris for whatever reason, and then you put in Ferrari here as an interest. Well, unlike what happens on Facebook, people who like Ferrari, it doesn't mean they own a Ferrari. They just fancy the idea of Ferraris are cool. They got a poster of a Ferrari or a little die-cast Hot Wheels thing, but they don't actually have one. So choosing a keyword, or interest actually, I shouldn't even say keyword, on Facebook is really a second level. It's an indirect targeting, because on Google, someone types in something, so they're typing in discount auto insurance, or digital camera, whatever they're typing in, they're looking for something right now. They're expecting to see results. So those kinds of words can never make it here into this like box, likes and interest box. It's just not going to work. Instead, you have to think of who these people are. So the people who want to work on, you've got a car social networking community, for example. You don't want to necessarily say they like Ferrari or something, but you might consider the kinds of magazines they read. So maybe if you're looking for people who are high income and actually would own one of these cars, then you might target people who are fans of a number of these dealerships or certain magazines that are high income. One of the things that we did, for example, on Rosetta Stone, which sells language software, is we targeted people who liked the BBC and NPR, because that means that they're probably cultured, they do foreign travel. We targeted folks who worked, well, let's see, who graduated from Harvard, for example. It costs maybe twice, 3 times as much per click, but because those people, they don't click on ads as much, right? The folks who have college degrees are better educated, they just don't click on ads as much. But we find they convert a lot better because it's the right audience. So think about who they are. What can we indirectly tell? Like a keyword on Google is direct. You know, what are they searching on? You give them what they want. That's what Google is. Come in, get your result, get out. But on Facebook, what is it about them? Is it that they like a certain brand? Are there related brands, for example? So competitive brands are great. Is it maybe they're male, maybe they're married, maybe, you know, what is it about that? Probably the easiest thing, if you don't know, is just target anyone who's got something simple. That is not simple, similar, right? Or target people who work at Google or Facebook if you're in that .com community. Okay, so once you've gone through the cycle a few times, you've got some content out there, you've found ways to promote it, you circle this thing, and now you're up at several thousand fans. That might cost you a few $100 depending on how well you do it. Now you have the ability to start to draw some real traffic, because until you have that base community, you have to kind of get the wheel turning. Then you can do some really cool stuff. So check this out. I'm going to show you, I mean, now that I'm going to out this, we're not going to be able to do this anymore, or the price is going to be so expensive we can't do it anymore. But here's how you can look really big. A lot of startups, they want to be featured in Mashable and TechCrunch, Read Write Web, this sort of thing. Well, if you were to go to Google and you bid on the term Michael Arrington because you want to show up in his Gmail, right? So you set a Google content target to mail.google.com and you target Michael Arrington so that maybe if he's checking his Gmail, he'll see your ad. Or people do things like that. That doesn't work too well anymore. What you want to do is target folks who work at the Wall Street Journal, for example, or who work at any of these particular publications. And this does not cost very much. Look, there's only 840 people here who have specified that they work at the Wall Street Journal. If I worked at the Wall Street Journal, I wouldn't specify I work there because I'd just get bombarded with ads. I had breakfast with one of the reporters a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, yep, all I see are these ads from these guys who are trying to reach me because they know I work at the Wall Street Journal. But if you target based on workplace, then this kind of thing may cost you $2 or $3 per day. Think about what you might say to someone who works at the New York Times, or maybe there's a particular trade mag that you really would like to get coverage on. And it's amazing how powerful this can become. So I'll give you an example. If I do a search on top dad blogs, the first result is almightydad.com, who's a friend of mine, full disclosure. And I ran some ads for him that were about some controversial issues where he's a homeschooler, and there's the whole issue of, homeschoolers, their kids are not well raised, not socially adapt, and blah, blah, blah. So we just chose the kind of content that we think that, or if you were adopted, and people who are arguing about, these people are, it doesn't matter really what the issue is. The point is that you have people who take different sides. This got enough traffic that it was then picked up on NPR. And once it got picked up on NPR, largely because there was traffic here, it started to rank in Google, as you see. Then other publications started picking up on it. Then you get this SEO power because other folks are linking to you. And I wrote an article just for fun on an MLM company. I don't hate this company, but I did it took me 20 minutes. Send out cards, right? So you can see send out cards is here, ranks on send out cards, ranks on all different variations of this. Sometimes it outranks the actual company site, which is amazing. And when you come to the post, you'll see that this one, for example, has 763 comments on it. And what signal does that send to Google or to users like, oh my God, 763 people are commenting on this sort of stuff. This will rank in Facebook. It'll rank in Google. When you do a good job in Facebook, the back door, this is a back door to rank inside Google. Think about that. Really expensive to buy traffic in Google. Really difficult to try to rank in Google organically because you got to buy links and do other things to get links. But a lot of this is from Facebook and running ads to people who work at news organizations. So just think about how you might do that. Who is it? What companies do these folks work at? If you're doing anything that's B2B or even sort of B2B, let's say you've got a startup that's for dentists, right? You're creating billing software for dentists. If you buy the keyword dentists on Google, you don't know if that person's looking for a dentist or if they are a dentist. But on Facebook, you've got a better idea because I can come in here and I can say dentist, dentistry, or dental surgeon, dental assistant. So the fact that it says here dental assistant, I've got 46,000 people who like dental assistant. Well, they don't really like dental assistant. This just means in their job profile they say that they're a dental assistant, just like people might say cancer. Well, this is ridiculous. So 1.8 million people who live in the United States like cancer. That's not right. What it means is that they've demonstrated that they've become a fan of cancer. They specified this is something that they're interested in. The word like is sort of a word you have to take with a grain of salt because it doesn't mean that they like it. It just means that they have an affinity or an association, but affinity and association are more difficult than the word like, so whatever, right? So job titles are a great thing. So let's say that you are looking to work with, maybe you've got a video game you've made and you would like to work with Sega. You want them to buy your stuff or you want to partner with them. Well, you might come in here and say that they work at Sega or Marvell or they, whatever, right? Here's Sega, 140 people here. And you don't want to target just anybody there. Maybe you want to target someone who's an executive. So you put in vice president or you put in chief whatever, chief operating officer. Or maybe you want to have a deal with, say, a company like, maybe you've got a discount shopping thing and you want to work with Albertsons, but you don't want to target people who are cashiers at Albertsons and say paper or plastic. You want to target people who are executives. Well, where's Albertsons located in terms of their headquarters? And then maybe you want to talk to folks who are marketing manager, marketing director, right? That way you're not hitting the retail service people. Think about how you can use a combination here of job titles and where they work to create enormous exposure for your startup without having to spend a lot of money. This is probably the most effective kind of targeting. I can't believe Facebook even allows us to use workplace targeting. They may even pull some of this stuff when we reveal how some of these tactics work. One thing to note is that when you do this targeting and it says here fewer than 20 people, there may actually be a lot more people than that because of how their ad system estimates traffic. It can tend to be a few weeks, sometimes even a couple months behind. So if you try to submit this ad, it'll probably say, you can't run this, must be at least 20. So then you have to add in a few more things, add in another country, add in, more job titles, more companies. If you've got a page that, let's say in the last 3 or 4 weeks has grown a lot, then it will come in here. I'll just give you an example. Let's go, change it to another page. House Rabbit Society is a nonprofit, and there's 7,000 fans. So you can see here, 7,230. So if I come here and I say, I want to target people who are connected to the House Rabbit Society, and work at Albertsons, well, probably not many of them, who work at the House Rabbit Society, it says 4,280. And yeah, live in the United States and 18 plus, but almost all of them live in the United States. So this is a discrepancy because Facebook hasn't caught up because we've had recent growth. Now, once your fan base gets above a few hundred or gets to several thousand, you can take advantage of what I think is the most powerful thing inside Facebook, which is friends of fan targeting, friends of connections. So you see the House Rabbit Society's got 7,000 fans, or as far as Facebook estimates 4,000. But check this out. If I want to look at how many people are friends of existing fans, then the number usually is between 100 to 200 times whatever this number is. So right now we're waiting for, oops, what is this? Lingerie bowl. I don't want to do that. Okay, so I can hit 1 million people with ads that have recommendations, right? And the ad is going to say, so-and-so likes this, and it's going to be that person's friend. Think about the power of that, right? The reason why we go through this first iteration of the cycle is to get that content, to get the community talking, to have people who, you get 1,000 people who are reasonably influential because you targeted well, because you chose articles that are going to bring people in, and then you start showing ads that are friend of fans. So if you take something like Officer Ludwig, which has 130,000 fans, and then we do friend of fan targeting, this number becomes stupid. We can hit 33 million people in the United States, and they have at least one friend that's connected, one friend that's a fan already of that page. So that's why you want to get people to come in here. And then if you know it's going to say so-and-so likes this, you can put words in their mouth. So you can say, check out why we have the best, and insert whatever you do, accounting software, whatever it is that you do. Or you could even be a little bit more clever, and you can say, I think, so-and-so is the best so-and-so around. And then it says so-and-so likes this. So you're putting words in other people's mouths. I wouldn't go that far, but it just shows you how the power of peer pressure and Facebook, which is about endorsements, works. Okay. So that's about the second cycle, right? The first cycle is getting the content. The second cycle is getting influence through here. Let me mention something else too. So if you're looking at posts and you want to see which of them are the most popular, you can come here to the new insights, go to interactions, click on see details, or come here and click on interactions here on the left side. And here's a number of these messages. Now what's cool is, you notice when I mouse over each of these messages, there's a unique URL. It's, /house_rabbit_society /post/ the message number. And it shows how many impressions there are, and it shows then what the feedback rate is, which is what % of people have clicked like or have commented on it. So if you see any one of these that are interesting, that you would like to get more traffic to, then you just take this URL and you come here and you stick it here as a web page. And then you can target to, probably you want to run this strategy to existing fans. So you would use this here. So you would choose, whatever, one of these ones, me, for example, right? And that way you can get people who already like you to come back and see. And it also increases your post quality score if you can do something such as you ask a question here. So why do you think that something, right? Something to create participation. You want to ask that question. So what's the impact of that? Well, mathematically, people see these ads, and some of them are going to click through, and then they're going to come to that article and they're going to comment. And when they comment, that increases your feedback rate. Does Facebook distinguish whether that feedback was organic or paid? I don't think they do. And what does that do with your post quality score? It increases the number of people, percentage of people that have interacted with you. What does that do with your overall edge rank? What does that tell Facebook overall in terms of how popular your content is? Your content could be popular because people really like it and just took off organically, and it was one of those stories that everyone hopes happens with their startups, which is great if it happens. But if it doesn't, you can kind of help things along, and you can increase that post quality score so that you can actually show up here in the newsfeed, right? Because here I'm looking at top news, and it's changed now to whatever people are saying. And the ones that have the most comments, so if I come in here and I click like, And then all my friends are coming in and clicking like. And if you have all the people in your startup clicking like on it without being too spammy about it, then it will break through that filter and have enough Edgerank to show up in top news. So I've got, I don't know, 2,000 something friends. There has to be a pretty high filter for news to bubble up to the top because there's 2,000 some people that are competing to come into the news stream. If you've only got a couple hundred friends, it's not a big deal. So as Facebook gets bigger and bigger and there's more likes per page and there's more fans and there's just more information, then the bar becomes higher and higher. In the same way, it becomes harder and harder to rank in Google because there's just more items competing, and the rank, you know, to show up here is just more difficult. Okay, so another thing you can do, if you have a little bit of programming expertise, and maybe Noah will put this on AppSumo, or you can go to App Bistro, or you go to webtrends.com and see some of the apps. There's a lot of places where you can grab apps. You can run ads to apps that then create engagement that will post to the feed, right? So if I come here and send this gift, actually I'll do another one because I don't think this is a good example. I'll come here and I'll use this gifting app. Actually, no, I don't want to use this app. I want to use Morgan. I want to cut this. Anything talking about gifting. And then I want to start, if I want to create a gift to create engagement, I may come here and pretend these are loaded with whatever images you want. Send this gift, right? I can choose a friend's name. And what happens is when I send this gift, I can then check out my friend's page and I can see that I've been sending gifts here. I've been sending coupons. I like to send things over here, as you can tell, just as a demo, right? And what happens is that all of his friends are going to see this. My friends are going to see this. And it creates that viral traffic. It increases that kind of engagement, which then doesn't cost you anything. But you use ads to try to shore up when your edge rank isn't high enough, when you need to get a little more interaction. So when you look at a page that's got a lot of interaction that's going on, this guy's a musician, Pat Travers. And if we look at the insights, and then we come to the old insights, he's got a post quality score of 9, which is high. If you run a contest, by the way, you'll see sometimes your post quality score will go over 100 initially, just because it's artificially high, because everyone's coming in, especially if the content is click like to, or the contest is click like to enter to win a camera or something like that. But a high post quality score creates this virtuous loop where people can see what's going on. And when you have this many fans, right, the more fans you have, the greater the multiplier of the audience that you can reach because of friends of fan targeting. And that's when it really starts to kick in, right? Because then you have ad copy that you're writing in the voice of people who like you. What is it that they'd say about you? And then you send to an app that allows them to share, to vote, to, I'll show you an example of what that might be, for example, like a face-off. Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl? Team A or Team B? Who do you like more, Google or Yahoo? Now, these are like buttons. See? These are all like and unlike. Let's say that you've got 5 different products, or it could be anything that you want people to vote on, just to get people to comment. And then below, they could come here and they could say something. This is just a demo app, so we're not using this for real. But for some other clients, for example, we will, this is devious. I'd love to see if anyone actually implements this. If they do, I want to hear about it. Where, I'm not going to tell you the page because you'll go check it out, but one of them, we targeted folks who were very pro-military. And we ran ads to this post that was controversial. And then we also ran ad targets to people who their interest was, for example, make peace, not war. And I love peace and I hate the military, whatever it is. So running 2 separate ads, bringing these people together into a fight. They don't realize that they've been targeted through ads. They don't realize that what's on the right side here if I just come to, you know, whatever, some other page other than the home page, these ads here, people don't realize that these are ads, that people pay to show their stuff here. So if we have content that is sort of inflammatory, then, and you bring the two polar opposites in there, it's you're going to win, right? So what is it about your product or service that is polarizing? Maybe not to the point of being offensive, but where there's definitely people who have a different point of view that's going to create engagement. And provided that you can start that kind of, let's just call it a conversation, but really it's almost an argument because it's social media, that's how you can blow up. One of our clients, for example, Lane Bryant. This is not an example for startups because Lane Bryant's they're an existing brand with a lot of stores and malls and that sort of thing. But they had an ad that had a plus-size woman doing sexy sorts of things, and the ad was pulled, and plus-size women all over the U.S. said, oh, you know, the horror, and so they became the poster child. Anyway, there's a lot of media around how, oh, is this okay? Is this not okay? And they got, I forgot what the number was, but it was some ridiculous amount. If they were to buy that much media, it would have been like 20 million bucks or something like that. And that's the kind of thing you want to hope for, where you get this kind of media attention, but in such a way that it's positive, where you can become the spokesperson on that issue that your brand represents. So if you craft this message properly with your ad and the targeted content we talked about in the beginning, it could be very successful. Now check this out. The most important real estate on your page is this profile picture box, which is 200 pixels wide by up to 600 tall. There are a number of things you can do to make the most of that real estate. So if I go back to Jillian Music as a person, here it says she's featured in all these different places. Or if I go to this, they're featuring customers, and there could be a nominate tab where, I'll just show you. Like if I go to National Guard, nominate hero, right? This takes a little bit more engineering, by the way. Right? You come in here, you nominate somebody, and every day somebody gets featured here. That's really cool. So think about your brand and who is it that you want to feature as the musician of the day, as the small business of the week, as the best tip of the month, as the whatever, so that you can award people using game mechanics, right? Because Facebook is about how everyone is special among their friends. Who's not special among their friends? How do you make it such that people feel prestige so that you can take advantage of game mechanics so that this can happen? Okay, so let's come back here. I hope by now people are getting an idea of how these different things are tying together. It's difficult to talk about Facebook advertising without talking about the organic pieces and how the content has to precede the advertising, which then has to tie into the application to get them to vote, to gift, to click a like, to reveal, right? And then how it goes into Google, and then you rank in Google, the Facebook results, you know. So for example, if I do, right, my friend, his Facebook page is right here, number 3. And people's Facebook pages are showing right up here in Google. And if you click here, then you're going to, if you're not a fan, you're going to go to that default tab that you specify, right? So you have to combine Google and Facebook organically with your advertising, which I think is really clever because it means Facebook designed the system so that if you really want to grow, you have to spend a little money to get things started. So let's go through this cycle real quick. I covered these items in a circle, or, you know, here's 3 iterations where we go A, B, C, D. So the first one, seed your content. What are those 2 or 3 things that are controversial? 2, ask a question on your Facebook page. When you ask a question, you get a higher response to get people to comment. If you use a like box and use Facebook Connect on your site to connect these 2, then you have the benefit of whatever happens on Facebook shows up on your website and vice versa. Run ads when you don't have many fans on interest targets and also based on workplace so that you can get people who are highly interested. You've got a dog social networking site, target people who like golden retrievers and ask them a question, show a picture of a beautiful dog and get them to emotionally react. Reply immediately when they come to your Facebook page or if they comment on your WordPress. You want to create that community because it increases your Facebook post quality score, your engagement rate, your Edgerank, all these other factors that Facebook uses to decide whether they want to have you show up in the newsfeed. It's just good etiquette anyway, just to reply to people. Once you have enough of a base, round two, who is it in the media? Certain magazines? Maybe it's the people that are at Google Ventures. Maybe it's, what are the other companies that you really would like to work with? Maybe you just want to run an ad that says XYZ, which is your company, which wishes you a happy birthday. And therefore you can get people to these articles, and then the media can see, wow, there's 500 comments on this, and look at all these other people, and these guys don't realize that you're spending just $2 a day targeting them. Then you can set up a reveal tab where they have to click like to see what's there, to watch a video, to whatever. And the fact that that person in the media or whatever organization has to click like then sends an endorsement to all their friends saying, oh, this so-and-so, Michael Arrington, likes this. Wow, okay, cool. Then you use social widgets using extended permissions so that you can do things like collect their email address, post to their wall, have their basic information, do it in a non-spammy sort of way so it's expected, right? If you have a gifting app or something where you're sharing a coupon where, hey, we're selling our software half off through Friday, then they would not feel offended if you posted to the wall saying, hey, George sent John this thing for half off on software. Round three, once you have a good base and the users are now generating the content, instead of you needing to prime the pump and spend all this money on advertising, you can run a contest. It doesn't make sense to run a contest if you only have a few people, right? Because then you're giving away a prize that costs a lot of money, and it just is kind of lame. You've got to have 10, 20, 30,000 people in there and base it on user submission. When you have that base, you can take advantage of apps that use crowd dynamics like nominating and voting and the kinds of things where people want to argue and participate, right? And share, using apps that use those extended permissions. And you can run some ads that are friends of fan targets. When you hit this point, you've by now hopefully figured out what the ROI is in terms of your revenue per fan and your cost per fan, because all startups have to make revenue at some point. So what is it? Is it ad revenue in terms of a CPM? Is it you're selling emails? Is it they're buying the software? Is it they're buying the t-shirt, or they're, whatever it is that you're doing? You should be able to back out the value of your fan. So let's just say, for example, you have a flow where they become a fan, you get their email address, and then they buy something. Maybe when they buy something that's worth $50, and you know that 1 in 10 people who have given you their email will buy, then you know that an email address is worth $5 to you. Then you can do the math to figure out what your cost per fan is versus what's your revenue per fan. And that's when, here at stage 3, you can really scale it out. And when you do that and you have enough of a base, remembering that likes are the new links, meaning that if you've got a lot of people that like you, you will rank in Google, because Facebook is page rank 10, which is super high power, and all of those people who like you are links to your page, and then you get that beautiful cycle where the traffic's running, where you're getting media exposure, people are using your product, you've got these testimonials, you have ads that are friends of fans saying, hey, so-and-so's using this product, you should too. You should find out why so-and-so likes this product. So hopefully that'll help you out. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'm happy to answer some of them here and there. Dennis@blitzlocal.com. Thank you very much.